Hey guys, Alan from Hack Gadgets here. Today's review day. We're going to be having a look at one of these parts analyzers. This one here, they actually call it the transistor tester, but it is much more than that, and it's very inexpensive. This is under $30, available from many online stores. This one I think I got from eBay. There is a website here we'll take a look at after, which also has some further details on it. Now, this is a great addition to your bench if you're having some problem identifying a component. Pop it into here, and chances are it'll help you out. It'll tell you pinouts, it'll tell you some values, etc. So let's head over to the bench and have a closer look. So this is the transistor tester. It's a very simple device. It has two interface buttons, a test and an off button. It has a number of surface mount pads over here, and you'll see that they have various numbers from 1 to 3. So it can test 2 leaded devices or 3 leaded devices. You also have a ZIF socket over here, and just above the socket you also have numbers 1 to 3. So that allows you to put different devices in there as long as you hit 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 or 2 to 3, etc. That will let you know what you have plugged in, and it doesn't matter. So let's say if you stick a diode in here from 1 to 2, or you flip it around and go 2 to 1, let's say anode to cathode or whatever, it doesn't care. It'll show you on the nice display here what you actually have plugged in. So that's really nice. Here's the website address here. You can go there for more information. It's a fish8840, and that can be found at fish8840.taobao.com. And it is a stacked surface or stacked PC board construction here. You can see there's some connectors that go over for the LCD here. And mainly it's all surface mount parts. You can see there is a few solder and parts there. This is most likely a voltage regulator and a filter cap here. And here's the back of the board here. You can see there's a programming header right here. And this is interesting actually. There is connectors here for battery leads. And it is, of course, powered by a 9-volt battery, which is the cheapest option for a piece of inexpensive gear like this. But where it's connected, you can see it pops through the board there. And this is actually connected into, if you take a look at the pinouts, you'll notice that that is a very standard barrel jack connector for an AC power supply. And you'll see the pinouts here, or the silk screen here. Is exactly that. That's for a standard barrel connector. So I guess the initial design was to have either battery, I'm thinking, or maybe a battery backup, although for this type of device I don't know why you would need a battery backup, or an AC connector. So I'm not sure why they plugged it into that location as opposed to the battery. Maybe there's some different tolerance, or maybe it lasts longer, maybe it doesn't go through as much filtering or something of that nature when it gets plugged into that other location. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. And I would have actually preferred not to have this battery lead and just to have the plug-in connector here, because I'm going to be, instead of plugging this into a 9-volt battery, I'll just be connecting this to a 9-volt power supply anyway. And I have tons of little 12-volt adapters here, so if I could have plugged it in to a little 9-volt adapter, that would have been probably more convenient. So let's power this up and take a quick look at it. Okay, so leads are connected to an external 9-volt power supply here. Let's press the test button. So we have an off button here, so let's see if I press the off button when it's off, what it does. Okay, nothing. That's what I kind of expected. I'm not exactly sure what the off does. This obviously does have a microcontroller here, so I'm not sure if an off is maybe a connection to the microcontroller to put it in sleep. Hard to say. Let's press test without anything connected and see what happens. Okay, so it powers up. Does some power on testing. Okay, actually I guess it was testing what was connected. And so we get no unknown or damaged, which makes sense because nothing is connected. Okay, so let's see that startup screen here a bit closer. Okay, modified by somebody. So it looks like maybe this is second version. Maybe this is a bit of a hybrid version here. Okay, and the off just turns us off. Let's get a couple parts and see what the parts do. Okay, so I got the good old parts bin here. This is just it's mainly been gone through. Usually it's a lot more stuff in there. This is just stuff that was yanked out of breadboards and stuff after doing some prototyping. So here's just a random resistor that's in there. Let's see what we get. So I'm just going to make sure I hit two different pins. So I'm going to put it in the two end pins, 3 and 2. Sorry, 3 and 1. Let's clamp it down with a little ZIF socket there. Press test. Okay, resistor 47.91K. Let's get a different meter out and take a look and see what it says. And the fluke says 46. So, pretty close. That's awesome for a resistor checker. Okay, next up we have just a very standard diode. This is a 40, what is this one here? This is a 1N4007. Okay, I'm just going to pop it in here without regard to polarity. I'm just going to make sure I hit the same pins, which are different. And let's see what we get with this one. Okay, it's telling me it's a diode, and it has a forward voltage, wow, 6.698 millivolts, so basically 0.7 volts. And it tells me the correct cathode anode location. So let's see if it's 0.7 on the fluke. Oh, on the fluke I have to make sure I hold it the right way. And, well, it's telling me 0.5. Put it back on the screen. 0.52. Okay, now of course getting two different readings, getting 0.1 from the fish device and getting 0.52 volts for a voltage drop on this diode here from the fluke. All that means is they're testing it with different currents flowing through it. Now, I've just set up a very simple test here. I have a 100 ohm resistor in series with that same diode. I have a power supply connected from the anode here, and the other side is connected right here. This is the ground of the power supply, and then basically these two leads here. This goes to an ammeter, which just passes through here and back over here, and then I'm just testing voltage across these two here, just to sort of see what sort of voltages and currents we actually get with the two here. So right now I actually have the voltage across the system. I'll just bring a meter in here and we can just take a quick look. So the voltage across the system right now is set for 1.8 volts. And if we take a look at the voltage we're getting, so this is the voltage that's being measured across the actual diode there. So there's our 0.7 volts. And if we take a look at the current here, this one here is measuring the current. So we have about 0.0116 amps going through there. And we can take a look at the voltage across the entire circuit here. So we have 1.856 volts across the entire circuit. Okay, now I'm just going to adjust the power supply here out of screen, and I'm just going to adjust it down until I get the 0.52 volts that we were getting on the fish. Okay, and now I have 0.52 volts measuring directly across the diode here. Let's see what our input voltage is. So input is almost 0.55 volts. Across this device I'm getting 0.524. Okay, and we can take a look at the current. And of course this device here was reading the same thing, 0.52 volts. And our current flowing through the circuit here is 0.00023 amps. Okay, so not that the one device is way out. They're just using different testing techniques here for testing that device. Okay, next up is a very common transistor. Not sure if this will focus on it or not. There we go, it's a 4401. Let's pop that in and see what this tells us about it. I'll pop it in this orientation so that the lettering is towards us, and it's labeled 1, 2, 3. Let's give it a test. So it tests really fast, and there we go. So 1, 2, 3 is emitter, base, collector, and it also shows us here 1, 2, 3 EBC, emitter, base, collector. That's nice. Tells us that it's a bipolar junction transistor, NPN. Gives us the beta here, 287, and oh no, so I guess it times out. I didn't realize that. I guess that's since it is typically on batteries. Not sure if I like that or not. I would have liked to have to turn it off to get that to go away from the screen. I noticed on some other people's reviews they don't like the fact that when you take it out that it doesn't remove itself, but I actually like that, because if you pop it out, I wouldn't want this to go away, or I wouldn't want this to be dynamically changing. I sort of like that it gives you a one solid red in value, and it sort of keeps it on the screen here. I don't like the timeout. I would like that to be like 5 minutes or something though. That would be much better. Okay, so let's take a look at a capacitor. This is a good quality capacitor here. Let's see the value we got. It's 47 microfarads. We'll just pop it in. Takes a while to read that guy. Okay, and geez, I'm gonna say that this failed on this one. So it did say it's a capacitor, but the value is not quite right. Okay, so I'm just going to short these leads out of this capacitor here just to make sure it's discharged from any test, and I'm just going to hook it up here with the fluke, and we'll see what this one reads. Well, the fluke is doing a much better job. for this little value capacitor, that's for sure. Okay, so let's test that again. I've popped in the device, made sure it's nice and tight. Let's do another test and see what results we get this time. Again, before testing I did short the device out, and again it's giving me a strange value. And it was reading an ESR of 0, so I've just popped it into an ESR meter here, and it's giving me pretty much 0, 0.325 ohms for the ESR. Okay, so let's test another and see if we have better results with this guy. So this is also a quality capacitor. This is 100 microfarad. Let's take a look and see what this one does. Well, I gotta say, something is wrong with the capacitance testing. I'm gonna have to say on this one. Now these are brand new capacitors, so I'm not thinking there's going to be anything wrong with its value, but let's just take a look on the fluke here and see what the fluke says. Yeah, right bang on spec. Okay, next thing I had is have some of these triacs here. Larger device. It's popped in there. Let's see what we got here. Okay, less information, but it gives us, let me just double check. Yeah, it gives us the proper pinouts of the device, and it says it's a triac, so that's perfect. Okay, I got an LED from the junk bin here. Let's pop it in and see what it does with an LED. It should know it as a diode, but it might not have the forward voltage to test it, as LEDs are typically much more than a standard. Oh, I see some flashing. There we go. Diode, 3.02 volts. And it looks like it was a blue one. Yes, it is blue, so that is a very typical forward voltage based on probably about 10 milliamps or so of forward current on here. Nice. So I just wanted to make sure that when I was testing the capacitor that failed, that it was within specification. So here's the specs of the device here. These are the types of components it can test, and we've tested most of these. Transistors, N-channel, MOSFETs, JFETs, diodes, and you also get some packages, usually 3 leaded packages with 2 diodes in them. It can also test that, thyristors, small unijunction bidirectional thyristors. Okay, and Darlington transistors. So here is the specifications here. So capacitors down over here. So it can measure from 30 picofarad to 100 millifarad with a resolution of 1 picofarad. So absolutely that 100 microfarad should have no problem here. And I just want to see, I do have some smaller ones here, and I've already tested this, and it does work on this one. So this is a quality, and it's brand new. This is a 100 nanofarad capacitor. We'll click on test and see what happens here. And there we go. So it gets that one perfectly between pins 1 and 2, which is where it is. So I'm just going to do a few more tests here, but I think there's a problem with the higher scale on capacitance, and I'm not sure why the lower region works and the higher one does not. Okay, and this is the smallest capacitor I have on hand. This is a 22 picofarad, and this is able to test down to 30 picofarads, so I figured I'll give it a try. And when I do, it actually says unknown device or no device. So it can't test below its range. I thought maybe it could, but it can't. And some of my Canadian friends will recognize this bag. So this is a 10 microfarad capacitor, and oddly enough, this one works. So right bang on the money. And I tested yet another good capacitor. This is a 47 microfarad Nichicon, and well, it just went away, but it passed okay. Oh, and now it doesn't. So I think maybe it's value-wise. Maybe we're just at the, for some reason, right at the weird sort of cutoff where it sort of works or doesn't work. Yeah, there it failed again. And here it is, the same device. I had to test it 3 times, and the 3rd time it passed. So 48, and this is a 47. So that's perfectly valid this time, but the other times before this it gave me some incorrect values. So there's something around the 50 or so microfarad and up area where it doesn't quite test properly. Now I'm quite sure this is just my unit here, because a lot of people have said some good things about this unit. So I've tested a number of power supplies. Well, another power supply. I've tested also just a standard battery, just to see if it was something on my end that might have been causing the issues. But no, there is something wrong with the higher end scale of the capacitor reading on this one here. I've taken out the 4 screws, and I've also just taken out this header here. So this basically is how the unit comes apart. Quite a nice display. Now it is, it would be nice if this was mounted in a box, because you know there is some exposed items here that could get snagged and destroy your unit, like this little flexible cable here. But you know, overall for this inexpensive device, you know, this is actually quite nice here. So this is the back. This is, I guess, is their logo here, and they also have their brand on the back here. So I guess this is actually a custom-made PC board. You can see these are soldered in place here with this flexible cable. Quite nice. There is a spot for some date code information here. It's not filled out though. So quite a nice display. Okay, so here's the main board that does all the work here. You can see there's the designer's name. Looks like there's a spot for a contrast pot here for the LCD, and it looks like there's probably some different options here for LCD connectors. There's a number of other connections there, and that looks like a standard LCD header. So we have a 8 megahertz crystal there. Quite a few capacitors and resistors. There's our surface mount pads closer up there. The buttons are very nice, quite tactile. Some nice headers here, nicer standoffs. And it's basically one screw just mounts into the bottom of it and holds that in place, and then the top screw holds the top portion in place there. It is a threaded standoff. And here's a closer look at the connector that would normally go for a barrel jack connector. And here's a closer up look at the battery connection there. And this is what I thought was probably a voltage regulator. Yes, it is. That's a 5-volt voltage regulator. and it looks like this is on the right hand side, and so typically on these ones here it goes output, ground, input. It's backwards compared to the large versions of these. So this is probably just an input filter cap here. Got some more discrete components there. And what do they have for device? Okay, so this is a Mega 328. Well, there we go. So I am a fan of this device, although this one here in particular is obviously defective. Now the only problem is I did buy this probably about a month or two ago, maybe even a bit longer than that. So I doubt if the seller will be very interested in giving me warranty on this, because he'll probably think I blew it up. But I will contact him and see what he says. For more information, go to hackedgadgets.com.